If you want to grow a lot of food like me, you got to learn how to use one of my adapters. That way you can grow lots of microgreens in a carefree way. I even take some of these microgreens and put them into larger containers, grow the plants out more, and increase my yield. We'll talk about that in another video. Right now, we're concerned with the setup. Now we've sold over 1,000 of these that go in a mason jar, so I want to go over a couple of questions I've been getting. Now through the Black Friday weekend, we're going to have these two adapters for buy one get one free. Link will be in the description. So we're going to go over how to set these up, because that's the foundation. You got to get that right for everything else to work. So we're going to start with this glass baking dish, the mason jar, and my self-watering adapter. Now a few people asked about setup. They said the water was all leaking out of the jar before they even got the grow medium in. So let's get a couple of these set up. Now the first thing that might help is put the adapter right in the container. And then fill some water in it, right up to the holes. Get it at least above that. Now this will stop most of the water from leaking out of the jar. You want to keep as much as possible inside of the jar. And we're working with a deeper baking dish here, which will work good for like radish and pak choi. Some of your smaller microgreens might do better in a baking dish like this. But we'll do them all so you see the difference. So we're going to fill up the jar all the way to the top. Take your adapter, put it on, just until it stops. Don't twist it too hard. Now see these holes? Because we put some water in the bottom, it's going to stop it from leaking out. You just got to tilt it fast. Like that. You see just a little bit leaked out, but it stopped. So you've got about 1 inch of water in the bottom, and you can see the water on the top is not going anywhere. Now you want your grow medium to be up higher than this level. Now if you take your time putting it in here, you can see it can leak out. Or if you shake it around, or if you don't turn it in there fast enough, you can see how much water will leak out before you actually set it down. So you don't want that. We'll try it again. See, the deeper the water is, the more grow medium you're going to need. And we really don't need that much for microgreens. But we do need it to work right. Alright, now we're going to do it without any water in the bottom. And this one's got a small hole, so not that much more would drip out. But you can see there's less in the top. But if you set it down in there, once the water finds its level, it's going to stop. You just can't take your time. See how much more you lose? And then it makes it too deep in the bottom. We'll try it in a different size container. Now what's going to matter is how wide the container is on the bottom, because that determines how much water is going to leak out of the jar, or how much you need to put in the bottom to stop it from leaking. This one's just a little bit wider on the bottom. So once again, we just put a little bit in there, and then flip it in just like that. And see, it stops. That's what you want to do. Not have too much in the bottom, and a whole lot left for rewatering in the top. That way, as this level dries up, the bottle refills it. Alright, now we're going to try the rectangle container. Just to show you, it doesn't really matter what the container is, it just matters what the size of it is. I'm going to take this and just flip it up. You can see not that much came out of it. But now if this baking dish was really big, all of that water would come out. Now that mason jar holds a whole quart. But if you're using something like this beer bottle, it's only about 16 ounces. Now the one with the refillable lid, the lip of the bottle sits up a little farther. So it's going to get a little deeper, about an inch. So you can see if we don't put any water in the bottom, a lot of it comes out of the bottle. Now this was meant to be refillable. So as the plants use the water, you'll be able to pull the bottle out, refill it, and pop it back in there. So now you see if you did put some water in the bottom first, and then you flip the bottle into it, then it stops. That's what you want. You want to keep as much in the bottle as possible. Now let's try it on this container, which is a little bit wider on the bottom. And we're going to try it without putting any water in first. So if you skip that first step, this is what happens. Just like the other one, you see most of the water coming out. So I fill the bottom of the container with about an inch of water, and it uses almost that whole bottle. So this might be what's happening to some of y'all. To remedy that, I would say just put a little water in the bottom first. About an inch will do. Then put your bottle in. Then it stops. Now this is a little bit deeper than the mason jar one. And this is another problem. We're using clay pebbles here. They're porous and they absorb moisture. If you put them in water, they float. Now if you just put a little bit in here, let's put one more scoop. You might think you got enough, but if you can push down on it and you can feel the water, then it's not deep enough. See that? It's too wet. Your seeds will get soggy and they'll just rot instead of sprouting. So you might need a deeper container. We'll and set it up in here, just so you can see the difference. I'm just going to dump these in. And just like in the rectangle container, this is what you don't want. Because they float, it looks like they're on top. But if you can push them down, that's way too much water. So if you're doing brassicas, cabbage, collards, things like that, they start to rot in here, it's probably going to smell. So now I'll put some more on the top, and this is why I use dry clay pebbles, so I can tell the difference. So you can see it's wet on the bottom. And it's still dry up on the top. This is what you want. Now we are going to wet this down for the seeds to germinate, but just so we can tell when we set it up for demonstration purposes, I like to put the dry on top. The top ones will retain moisture, and as they start to dry out, the roots will go down and look for the water. So that one's just right. Now let's try something really shallow. Now we can't get too deep in here, so we're going to put just a little in the bottom. We're going to use our mason jar one. And we're going to want to fill it all the way up, because we want as much in here as possible, because we can't refill this one. And this should be enough to get your microgreens done. Take that, one quick flip, no playing around, and it's all set. And you see there's about a ½ inch of water on the bottom. And I'm just going to move these wet ones over here. And now we'll get some dry ones so you can see. You can start with wet if you want. Alright, so we'll put some on the top. Now you might have to pile these up a little higher than the rim. But at least that way you know the water can't get any higher than that. So you can see the clay pebbles go up a little bit higher than the rim of the baking dish. So these will be wet, but as they dry out, the roots will go down to the water. That's what you want. So you can start with all of these wet to begin with, just so you know the process. But if you set it up like this, everything's going to be alright. And if you do start with the dry clay pebbles, just come in here, spray with a spray bottle. Do a little more than I did. Once you put your seeds on, mist them again. Then as they germinate, if it starts to dry out too much, just spray them a little bit. If you have it covered up, you shouldn't really have to spritz it too much, because the humidity will stay inside. And all you'll have to do is uncover it after 3 or 4 days. Now this one's ready for a little bit of seeds and a cover. So that does it for setup. I hope that helps. There's lots of people out there doing this. Lots of people growing their food. I'm really excited about it. Our next one, we'll go ahead and talk about the sand. Same concept, just a couple little tweaks. But once you understand this concept, it all works like a charm. So check out the other videos for the rest of the growing process, but I think this covers the setup. Don't forget, we got the buy one get one free on the 2 mason jar adapters, the hybrid and the original one, and that goes on through Black Friday weekend. Get out there, grow some food, live to inspire, keep on growing, be the change. We'll catch you next time.